apocalypse. All traces of civilization were destroyed. Entire cities crumbled into dust. Lethal gases combined with ash to form a deadly smoke. The atmosphere was poisoned. A black night fell on all humankind. The only escape? The heavens. Decades passed. The lethal gases and ash condensed into a solid crust. A floating island in the clouds was formed. The survivors, who had been cursed to wander in the air, landed at last on this floating Noah's Ark. And it is on this island in the heavens that they built their refuge, a new metropolis. Built on smoke, this city synthesized all of the concepts found in past cultures to create the civilization of the future. The city grew higher, then higher, defying gravity. After years, then more years of grueling work, the city of NEEH finally rose. NEEH, the lost civilization. Part 1, a global approach to precise matters, specific generalities, and miscellaneous items. Cultural and racial melting pot, the inhabitants of NEEH inherit the physical attributes of their ancestors. But their bodies evolve, and their walk is now faster and more aggressive, better adapted to this new environment. The old dream of Esperanto, a universal language spoken and understood by all, finally comes true. A single word is used as subject, object, and verb. The word is fuck.
Fuck your country, man! Fuck you! Shit, man, you know how much that shit cost me? You motherfucker!
Because of the limited space on their cloud, the inhabitants of NEEH are confronted with overpopulation and, therefore, a shortage of food. Like many of his kind, this poor child has hardly eaten a thing in weeks. To remedy these problems, the excess population is confined in a holding area called Central Park. Here they are forced to live in inhumane conditions, stacked on top of each other 7 days a week, piled together every day of their lives. This man, in a desperate bid to move the walls of his prison, fails. Kept in captivity, the unfortunate develop abnormal behavioral patterns. And as soon as they reach maturity, they are recycled. Then, in the daily meat market, the fight for precious flesh rages, as they know there will not be enough for everyone.
Let me have your heart with sauerkraut. Then I'll eat your snout with Brussels sprouts. I have a hunch you are gonna
With the advent of technology, people can now communicate by brain waves, a cerebral jolt that passes through miniature headphones. These young lovers are sharing a passionate brainwave embrace in total intimacy. Little moving cabins are available for couples in heat, a haven for copulation. A small external light indicates when the cabin is available for the next couple. When each couple reaches the pinnacle of pleasure, they utter a groan of delight. Then, in the springtime, comes the season of love. Because of this promiscuity, a sexually transmitted disease propagates among the population. First, the virus attacks a little spot, but then spreads very quickly. And within a month, the whole body is infected. Shapeless creatures patrol the sky above NEEH. These flying jellyfish float in the wind, waiting to locate their prey. Prowl the streets, ready to drop down on the unsuspecting. Once their prey is located, they descend upon it and strike. They sting and lay their eggs inside the victim's body. Then, for 9 days, intensive jaw contractions are endured until the baby jellyfish finally hatches. Part 2, The Legend of the God TV. In such a hostile environment, spiritual life becomes crucial. And all the inhabitants of NEEH are extremely religious. The cult of the God TV is followed by all. We were able to enter into the inner sanctum of a worshiper who permitted us to film him at a moment of mystical fervor. Totally absorbed in his trance, the worshiper does not seem to notice us. He is immobile in prayer, except when the communion wafer is taken. Suddenly, the mystic is overcome by spasms and enters into a trance. When he awakens from the trance, he will claim not to remember a thing. Each year, ritual sacrifices are celebrated to appease the God TV. The unfortunate who are chosen are thrown into the maze below the surface of NEEH, where a hideous flesh-eating monster lurks in the dark, producing horrible screams as it devours its victims. Left for the monster, they await a certain death. Despair and resignation can be read on their faces. They know they will not survive the night. Some even await death as a deliverance. Each year, by a lottery, the God TV designates those to be thrown into the pit. This woman's life has just been spared by the wheel. For others, the God is not that merciful. Part 3, Art and Cultural Activities. Part 4, Social Structure. To worship the God TV more devoutly, the natives do not work, and the real labor is done by slaves. At a very young age, they are put to work without even knowing what pleasure or leisure are. Thanks to an altar, some are able to be in touch with the religious life. They work until complete exhaustion, sometimes even until death. The females of the slaves, useless, are gathered into an outrageous ghetto, the Upper East Side. Deprived of their men, they wander aimlessly, sad Penelopes without hope of ever again seeing their Ulysses. Left to themselves on the streets of their no man's land, they inevitably gather in gangs. The gang members recognize each other by little esoteric signs, almost invisible to the eyes of the outsider. Their weapons are chains, razor-sharp heels, and ferocious wild beasts. At night, the streets of NEEH are deserted. All inhabitants, regardless of social status, attend mysterious ceremonies. The meaning of these tribal celebrations are not known. But given the way the indigenous perform, these rituals must be of great significance. In the morning, the only traces left of these ceremonies are the hieroglyphics on the walls. If these mysterious writings could be deciphered, they would be an invaluable guide to understand this civilization. But it is likely that they will remain a riddle for a very long time. epilogue. Sometimes the crust on which NEEH is built breaks, releasing the lethal gas bubbling underneath. Because it is extremely contagious, the smoke is immediately isolated. If someone is exposed to the smoke, he gets contaminated. This is what happens when someone is struck by the sickness. People call them the smokers. Even though the smokers are not contagious, they are harshly discriminated against. Social outcast, they are banned from public places. Because for NEEH's inhabitants, the smokers are constant reminders of the precariousness of their existence, for they are only too aware that what is built on smoke will eventually return to smoke.